Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. You know, if you're like me, you like to stay up on top of the latest articles, information, things you can really sink your teeth into. And you know, what's interesting is they often point you to things you just don't know. And I had the fortunate experience of running into somebody who helped teach me some more things I don't know. His name is Dave. He's over at Squarebird's forum, but you might know him as Simply Connected. Now, I posted my first Thunderbird video on squarebirds.org, kind of as a way to share with community and give a nod back to some of the help. And you can check out that video here. But what was interesting is Dave reached out to me in a message and said, hey, where do I start? Give me a shout, and he sent me his number. So I gave him a call, and he picked up. And boy, that was an interesting conversation. And one of the things he talked to me about, and he said this is something you'll need to know, was on the technical resources page of the Squarebird website. This technical resources page I had seen before. In fact, I'd gone through quite a bit of things there. But I never really dug into two different things. One was the illustrated parts catalog, and the other was a text parts catalog. Honestly, I'd opened them up briefly, and the thing that I did dwell on was the fact that they had the entire service manual, which I downloaded and later purchased a copy of. But he wanted to tell me a little bit about the Ford parts numbering system. And when he did, it really opened up my eyes. You see, that's how I can find something like this now, which is the elbow that goes from the manifold to the heater core, which in this case needs to be replaced. But I had no idea where to start to find it beforehand. But now, thanks to Dave, I can simply look it up in the illustrated parts catalog, go to the text parts catalog, and find out exactly what I need. And so I thought I'd share that information with you because it applies not only to Thunderbirds here, but all kinds of other Ford vehicles. And so if you haven't heard about it like I didn't know about it, maybe this will help you out and I can pass this along. So let's talk a little bit about that Ford parts numbering system and how you can start helping yourself. Now, Ford parts numbers are made up of three different things. There's a prefix, a basic part number, and a suffix. So let's dive into each of those, and along the way, we'll go through the exercise of how I came across this particular part, and so maybe you can see how you can find parts of your own. Now, the prefix tells some interesting information. It tells the year that the part was released for production, what vehicle the part was originally released in. In the case for service parts, it also tells which division the part belongs to, Ford, Mercury, etc. Now, the basic part number tells you what the part is. So then there's the suffix. A part number suffix generally tells you the version that the part number is or how many changes it's gone to. So if you see in the suffix the letter A, that's telling you that that is version 1. B, version 2, C, version 3, and so on. These changes are documented, and it lets you kind of understand where along the flow the part's gone as revisions have come around. That can be handy to understand where changes might be seen. Now, they go all the way through the letters of the alphabet, skipping I, and when they get to Z, they start over at AA, AB, and so on. So let's take a quick minute and start to find this part. Now, if I was to guess when I was taking this off, I knew it was some sort of elbow, the shape, but I also knew that it came off the manifold and went to the heater core. So I had a good idea of exactly where this thing might be going. I at least knew it was an elbow, but I wouldn't know exactly what part number it was or where to start. So that's when you need to start at the illustrated parts catalog. Let's open it up and take a quick look. First, we'll head to the index. Now, in the index, you can see all the different divisions. And in the case of this particular elbow, you have some options as to where you might want to start. You might initially think it's going to be with the engine, or maybe the cooling, or there's a third option, which we'll see here in just a second. But let's go ahead and take a quick look through the engine and cooling sections to see if we can't spot this elbow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the engine. You can see that included in this index here, we have camshaft, crankshaft, cylinder block, cylinder head, engine, engine supports, oil, filter, oil pump pan, piston connector rod, valves, push rods, and colors. So within this index right here, we're seeing that we don't really have a lot of things dealing with the manifold cooling or the cooling itself. Let's take a look back up here at the top and let's look at the cooling section. So sections 80 through 85, cooling and cooling grill. I'll click on this. And here we see, we've got cooling systems, radiator grill related parts, and water pumps. Oh, this is looking promising. Under cooling systems, here's the different types. Different radiator grills, water pumps, 8-cylinder engines. Well, let's go ahead and look at the 8-cylinder engine water pump here. And we'll go down to page 286. So you can see the page numbers. Drop down. And I'm on page 286. Well, we've got a water pump. Well, we don't see anything dealing with that. All right, so nothing there. Let's go back up to the top. So now we'll go check into something else here. It wasn't with the engine, it wasn't with the cooling system, but it is part of the heater system, which happens to be carried underneath the accessories. So let's go check out the accessories section. And if we look in here on the index, sure enough, we can see jack, speedometer, windshield, and then we have heater. Okay, so this is promising. Let's go down here and see if, looking at the index, we can find heater, shock absorbers. Ah, yes, heater. And we have the 1960 fresh air heater related parts Thunderbird, and that's on page 548. Let's go look down on page 548. All right, page 548. And this is a little interesting because we're looking at it from the part of the heater core on back. So we have to kind of look. And sure enough, let me zoom in on it here. Here we've found our elbow, and we can see the part number on it, 18599. We also have a part number for the hose, and we got a part number for this clamp. But there's the elbow that we're looking for, 18599. So now we need to look for the same thing in the text catalog, find out exactly what this thing is called. So we're in the text catalog. As you can see, we've got the same sections here. So we already know that we're going to want to go into section 170 to 190, speedometer, windshield wiper, and accessories. So let's jump down to 815. And once again, we've got an index here. Now we're seeing we've got part names and a group number. So after shock absorber, we have heater and air conditioner. So let's start scrolling through the index. And bingo. Elbow, heater hose, 18599. And now that we can see where it is on the index, we can go chase that down. So let's scroll down. They don't give a page number for this. So that looks like we're going to have to go through some pages, but all right. And we've scrolled down and we've hit it here. 18599 elbow. That's another group we can refer to as well, but let's see if we can go ahead and find this. Here's a 6061 S. S is a code for Thunderbird. Fresh air integral AC connection. And there's the full part number, B7A 18599-B. So you can see as of the time of this catalog, we're on the second revision there, B7A. So part number has been adjusted to meet whatever this current catalog goes up to, which I think is 67. And with that, we found our elbow. So now that we have the elbow found, now we need to go ahead and source it. Now, this is where the interwebs becomes magic, and it's so much easier these days than other days, and you can basically kind of pick your poison as to where you want to go. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to go to eBay, and we'll go ahead and we'll see if we can't search this up by its basic part number and name. All right, we're in ebay.com. We'll say Ford heater elbow 18599. That should be fairly descriptive. And would you look at that? Now this is showing for some other cars 64, 65, but we know from looking at that parts, it was showing 67 in the number. So if we take a look at this particular part, and we'll scroll down, see if they've got some compatibility. Ooh, there's a lot of items on it, but look at this. They're giving us the OEM part number, and there's that 18599 revision P. Remember the first four, that's talking about part number. So pretty confident this is the right part. Okay, so we found our basic part that we were looking for. Success. Now another dent in the piggy bank. Many more to go. Hopefully this video has helped you figure out a little bit more than you knew before. If not, it at least gets you on the path. I will concede right off the bat, I am by no means an expert at this parts numbering game. And there's a lot more information, a lot more detail on how to read these parts numbers, including exactly what all the letters of the prefix means, etc., that you can find online. I'll link a couple of resources in the video description so you can check them out. And let's get to it.